It says I'm live now. How exciting. Live. I'm live. All right. Well, since I am live, being recorded now, um, this is just going to be an informal little evening. I thought I'd go live while I'm working on some art, see what I draw, chat with anybody who shows up about anything really. So it's not really structured. I haven't done one of these in a while. So we can talk about anything. And who knows what I'll bring up. Maybe what I'm thinking about reading, what I'm actually working on, those kinds of things. Hope everybody out there is doing well. And be sure to leave a comment if you're watching. Oh, somebody's here. Hello. And, you know, like the video so it gets more views. Um, yeah, I haven't been making much content. My Wednesday Bible study got canceled, so I was like, why don't I go live and catch up with people, see how everyone's doing? It's been a weird month, a lot of strange things happening. Um, it's been a weird life, really, and or a strange life. I think I titled this "Keeping Up with the Strange." My take on keeping up with the Joneses, and keep up with the strange. Are we keeping up with the strange? Are we going beyond? Are we keeping up with those that are a little bit different? Um, by choice or not? And I think that's the thing. Obviously, strange is not my birth name. It's an adopted name. I actually adopted it almost 20 years ago. So thinking about that as a teenager, the fact that I took on this name and what kind of inspired it. Obviously, I was inspired by other people who'd taken on the name or characters. I remember as a teen, there was the Emily Strange. Me and my friends, Mia, were really into that character. We had quite a few T-shirts of her and her little activities she got up to. I still love Emily Strange, and I still follow like Emily Strange pages online. Sometimes I even share some of them. Um, she was just, this little creepy girl, long black hair. And she had like black cats and she was into, spooky things. And I was like, oh, that's me. I identify with that. Um, Obviously, that's something I've never grown out of, and obviously who I grew into. Um, but there's other people who've taken on that name as well. Notably, the artist, musician, and just avant-garde pioneer of the new romantic scene, and also just new wave, Stephen Strange. Um, he is another figure who adopted that name, and recently I came across a goth model that uses the name too, and so I don't know, I thought, why not keep up with the strange, keep up with me. So the funny thing is, though, the older I get, the more normal I realize I am. you know I think in our youth, adolescence, it's easy to fall into a mindset of feeling very different from others, or that you can't relate to others, or that somehow your differences are very stark. But I think the more you live your life, the more ordinary you kind of understand yourself to be in many ways. Obviously, I'm an ordinary person. I am an artist. I am a creative. I also, put myself out here in this public way. But my day-to-day life is not very different than many folk out there. So in many ways, I'm normal and strange. But I wonder if that feeling will ever go away of that difference. I still struggle with it, especially in groups, feeling kind of like I'm offset. After kind of like analyzing different aspects of myself and getting into astrology for years, I did find that there were, certain placements I had that went along with certain themes that I'd gone through in my life around those kinds of feelings. And, we're all here to just kind of deal with those issues and kind of develop ourselves from them. There's quite a few of you watching. Say hi in the chat. This chat will be about anything you all want. So if you have questions for me, you can leave them. We can talk about whatever. And yeah, if you like the video, if you're watching, you can see some of my view. Hopefully it's ordinary enough that it could be any place at any time in any city. Also, I've got my Christmas tree up. What do you all think about my Christmas tree? This is the first year in my adult life that I got a tree and decorated it and put it up. I also have some lights. They're not plugged in right now, and I've been rearranging my furniture. And actually, I've gotten some new furniture this past week. My friend actually found me this really amazing chair and ottoman. So Nero's been enjoying it more than I have, but it is nice to have another piece of furniture that's comfy in the house. Hello, Pico. Good to see you again. And Jeanne d'Arc. Well, welcome. Well, I guess it worked out then, y'all. Hey, y'all are commenting. Like the video, please. It puts it up in the algorithm so other viewers can, see it. So anyway, get my water here. How's everyone doing? How are y'all feeling about the end of the year? How do you feel about being strange, part of Strange Nation here? Do y'all feel different from other people, or do you feel that you're pretty ordinary, or do you feel like both are true? Long time watcher, first time liver. Well, I'm glad you're here then. I'm glad you could catch me. It's a different experience when you get to, interact with me. Keith Carlock's portals and magic ghost number cubes. Hi. Hi. Thanks for showing up, being here. So, yeah. What do you feel? Do you feel like being different is something that you have to work at sometimes? Like, is there a point where it becomes effort? I sometimes wonder too about that, because there is sometimes a sense that it can be contrived with people, like persona, that is. And I've fallen into a bit of persona in my life, and it's rather difficult when you kind of wake up from having that happen, realizing that you've put your persona before your actual like real self and identity, or you've like elevated it above anything else. And a persona is it's a contrived self that's really incomplete and only contains like a singular or very limited facets of your actual personality. I think everybody has aspects that make them both ordinary and unique. It is a balance in ourselves. Sometimes it's more inward uniqueness. Well, When you say inward uniqueness, what do you mean? Is it like, do you mean that they don't appear like a character or like it isn't visible to others? The only ordinary people are the ones you don't know well. Is that a quote? It's, I see it in quotations. Hi, split seconds. Been listening to a lot of Sparks. I've only listened to them a little bit myself. Um, I'm thinking of that song, "This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us." That's them, right? That's Sparks. I should get into them more. They have that kind of like cool glam sound, I would say. But they're very, speaking of unique, they're a very unique band. Um, but they're one I haven't really gotten into. And I love discovering like new older bands. So maybe I should give them more of a listen. What's everybody listening to lately? Like, what's in your playlists? I found like for my winter playlist I'm setting up, I've been listening to a lot of like traditional Irish music, folk songs, and that. I don't know. Maybe it's because of my upbringing. We listened to a lot of that in the house, so growing up anyway. So maybe around this time of year, I'm like wanting to connect with that. I'm very drawn to my inner world. Yeah, I mean, aren't we all? Aren't we all? I love my inner world. I love my time with myself. I mean, you have to spend time there. I mean, if you don't spend time there, that's when you kind of like lose yourself as well because you're not connecting with yourself. And if you're not connecting with yourself, it's easy to forget yourself. It's the importance of not being too busy. It's important to like have things to do and responsibilities, but it's also important to have that time and to like consciously put effort into your relationship with yourself and understanding yourself and who you are. What's everybody listening to lately? Since Split Seconds is listening to Sparks, what other music is going on at this time? So yeah, I've been listening to. I guess I got in the mood for it because I was listening to the Pogues recently, and then I was kind of like, oh, putting all these songs together. I was like, yeah, I want this kind of sound. Okay, Pica's listening to Florence and the Machine. That's your favorite band. Oh yeah, people share your favorite bands. I'd love to know people's favorite bands. Florence and the Machine. That's another group I haven't really gotten into much. Musicals. I like musicals. I mean, not all musicals, but there's some musicals I like. You know what? I went a couple weeks ago to see John Waters do a stand-up show, like a Christmas stand-up. That was pretty cool. Um, my friend bought some tickets and uh, basically we're like, hey, we're all going to this. I was like very honored to be invited and to see John Waters. It was mostly funny. I mean, there were some parts of it that I cringed at a bit because I'm kind of a prude. I mean, in some ways, I get kind of like, ugh. But it was funny and it was such an honor to see him uh, do a stand-up show. But yeah, he's done some musicals. I like his musicals. Obviously, Hairspray, Crybaby, Bon Scott, ACDC, and ACDC in general. Also, The Doors. I love The Doors. I was talking with my friend recently. Speaking of strange, she asked me if I identified as goth, and I was like, yeah. So then we had a conversation about that, and yeah, she I guess she was asking other people for their opinion who kind of were either part of that subculture or adjacent to that subculture in some way. But someone had talked about how the Doors were like in that same vein, and I agree with that. And it was also interesting because a lot of different. They definitely were an influence for a lot of like goth music. Well, I don't know if my ancestors were actual Goths. I don't know if we had any of that in my line. I mean, I haven't looked that far back. I definitely have Roman ancestry, though. So who knows? Maybe I was on both sides. Obviously, when I'm referring to Goth, I'm referring to the Gothic subculture, obviously, which would be, part of my the development of my identity. Uh, put on Baghdaddies for warm ups. I've never heard of Baghdaddies. Interesting. Someone said I'm incredibly interesting, or Keith said I'm incredibly interesting. Am I? Thank you. Did I listen to the new Taylor Swift? No, I haven't listened to her new album. I think I've probably heard part of it. Y'all, 9 viewers, but only 2 thumbs up. Come on, like the video. It's etiquette. You're watching. Okay. This is how YouTube is. I gotta ask. So, no, I haven't listened to the new Taylor Swift album yet. I can't listen to Taylor Swift, actually. I'll be honest with you. It brings up a lot of hard feelings for me. So I struggle to like actually listen to her. I get all emotional. She has some bangers and whatnot, but there's just brings me back to a place and a time that was very hard for me. Um, so Pico likes to listen to history podcasts. Okay, I like a bit of history. Do you have any favorite eras in history? Like any times you would like to see? If you could go back in time, where would you want to go? I have a bit of an obsession or interest in different, ancient cultures. I mean, my first one that I got into was obviously ancient Egypt because obviously I'm a woman, so I'd rather not time travel. Why? Don't believe the hype, okay? History is, a lot of it's false too, okay? We've survived, and women were just as badass as we are now back in the day. So, and there are many times that women had awesome experiences, and different cultures had, it was awesome to be a woman, you know. I wouldn't, use your imagination and think of the best possible scenario. I like Roman. Yeah, I would love, I have a passion for ancient Rome too. Rome is just, well, in so many ways, it's foundational to our modern culture and our modern, at least in the U.S. It's the a lot of our culture is based off of what came out of Rome. So it's relevant. It's just like the Latin language. It's still living in many ways. It's adapted, and it's changed over time, but it's still very much relevant. Can I share your link on my Facebook? Sure. As you have good intentions, then yeah. Do you think your Facebook viewers would be interested, or your Facebook friends would be interested in my content? Sure. I'm a little bit behind because of bad internet. Oh no, y'all. Okay, it's okay, John. Joan. Mm. In ancient Egypt, if you were walking down an alleyway and found a dead cat, you had to step back 20 paces and yell to everyone you didn't kill it or risk being stoned by a mob. How far we have fallen really makes you think. I think I'm boring and normal, but other people tell me I am not. Huh. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's too. I mean, when we talk about like being strange or different, whatever, a lot of it has to do with how other people make us feel and how they perceive us too. And maybe how we perceive ourselves based on the interactions we have with folks. So, I mean, I understand that too. Like, what, I mean, I don't know though. It's always interesting to me when I have a perception of myself and then I'll say something and then people will give me a different perspective, like, oh no, I think of you this way. And I'm like, hmm. I mean, but you can't, it's, it's a difficult dance because you can't put too much relevance on how other people perceive you as well, because, you know, that gets into kind of dangerous territory. You can forget yourself if you put too much emphasis on what other people think as well. Um, split seconds. Split second says, I would like to time travel to the fun year that was 2020. That was a rough year for me. I don't know, y'all. I done lost my mind. Lost my mind, lost myself in many ways. And I went through so much strife, you know. Obviously, in many ways, I mean, I remember kind of at the start of the pandemic, I watched this Eckhart Tolle video, and he had read from the Bible. I think it was from Matthew, where Jesus talks about, you know, the importance of building your house on the rock, you know, your foundation. And Eckhart basically reads this passage from the Bible, and then he goes into saying that this year was about 2020 anyway, was about bringing us all back to the rock, you know, our center, bringing us back to our foundation. And so, you know, if your foundations, those foundations in our life, which were not solid, those that were built on sand, really did get washed away. And all that remained was the rock. And so, in many ways, oh, hi, morbid atheist. How are you, my dear? Oh, I love when my old fans and friends show up. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Um, so yeah, in some ways, you know, I talk about that it really did stick with me, that um, message and that passage, and just thinking about what did happen that year, because that was true for me. You know, I got brought back to so much that was built on the sand in my life was washed away. And I realized that many things in my life were built on sand. And it was, in some ways, it was terrifying, honestly, to kind of go through so much loss as well. Go through so much loss. And even though I didn't isolate myself as much as some people did, I tried very hard to. keep myself social, keep hanging out with people, keep interacting with people in person. You know, it was a very distressing time, and I think we all went through it. You know, it was a collective it was a collective experience too. I mean, the society itself kind of, a lot of things built on sand were wiped under as well. Um, okay, let's see. We all have facets. We act differently than we are with different places and are different from work and home and very different with how we see ourselves. We have many masks. Well, indeed. Yeah. Keith said, I shared your link and said, this woman is cool as hell. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Pika says, the Bible does have a lot of deep meaning, but all religions to some extent. I have read the entire Bible and the Quran. Well, okay. I mean, I like the Bible. It's never steered me wrong. Whenever I needed it, it was there. Let's just say, and it had what I needed to hear. So, I'm reading I'm reading a book right now. This is the book I'm currently reading, C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. Actually, the last thing he said, or the last chapter I read, he said something interesting, because it's kind of about like what Christians believe. What did he say? I'm going to see if I can find it. What is it? Where is it? Where is it? Maybe it was the one before. I did read through a few chapters last night. This is old too. This book is like printed in 1960, like this actual copy. Let's see if I can remember it specifically, what he said. He said that, like, Christian, there's something about how, I'm not going to say it correctly, but he said something about like a decent Christian will see the truth in many religions or faiths or spiritual beliefs, but will, understand that they're incomplete in some way, Anyway, paraphrasing the great C.S. Lewis. I mean, the guy who wrote the Chronicles of Narnia. What can I say that can compare with what he said? This book is actually excerpts from his during World War II. He was tasked with doing these radio broadcasts to kind of keep people to, these were broadcasted, at least in Britain, to give people like encouragement, faith, strength, and this was kind of part of his series. So the writings in this book are actually like, I wonder if I could find recordings of them. That would be interesting, wouldn't it, to see if I could like actually listen to some of his speeches, because the guy was amazing. Like, I remember watching a documentary about him years ago, and I was just like blown away about this person that he was. So let's see. Pika said, do you consider yourself a Christian? I feel like we've talked about that before. But maybe I'm mistaking you for someone else. I do. Yes, I do. Like culturally, and also I'm a member of a church, so I am a Christian. It's nice that you are so truthful in your guiding philosophies of life. I just talk about what inspires me. I mean, what I find strength and comfort in, and what I think is helpful to might be helpful to others. Oh, Joan, I'm sorry. Joan's having real trouble with the internet and says it's freezing. Y'all, so Joan says, oh, Joan asked a question but is leaving. I used to follow you for feminist content. I know you don't speak about those topics much now. Would you ever talk about where you're at with these sorts of topics? I mean, I would say at this point in my life, I don't really consider myself to be a feminist. And not because, I mean, not because like certain beliefs may have changed for me. I don't think they have. I think in some ways, some of my convictions have gotten stronger, but I do think that um, I struggle with like putting too much emphasis on identifying with a philosophy too strongly. And like that was something about 2020 that I went through a lot of difficult experiences. And I kind of came back to understanding that I didn't really want to identify as too many things, you know, like with being a Christian, for example, I will identify as that. Okay. That's something that's important to me. It's part of my history, it's part of my experience that I'm comfortable with. Now, what people think about me as a Christian could be vastly different because, as you all know, I'm a psychic medium. I do tarot readings. Um, yeah, I've obviously bisexual, have lived, you know, in ways that aren't, you know, some people have a problem with in that faith. But for me, you know, your relationship with God is personal, and the experiences that you are led through your life, I think, I mean, I wouldn't be able to, I think, minister and talk to people if I didn't have those experiences. So in many ways, like, it's just, you know, there's another thing like psychic medium, right? And even that's an uncomfortable word for me because it's like, what the hell does that mean? You know, go on about it, like, but you know, I have people who are Christian leave me nasty comments sometimes, or who identify as Christian, quote the Bible at me, basically stating that, you know, I should not be tolerated, essentially. So, you know, which whatever. Whatever. So yeah, I just regarding to get back to the point, I kind of went on a rant there. Didn't need to, not a rant, but a detour. Joan Dark had asked me about the feminism thing. I just, you know, I don't really want to talk about those subjects either. I feel like other people can talk about them if they want to. But I found, you know, for me, that was a big like derailment of me actually focusing and creating the kind of content that I need to create, which is based on who I am, what I think, what I perceive. You know, I got really wrapped up in that stuff too much. And so for me, it's just, I would rather, in order to have my own self back more, not be identified with that. I also don't want to discuss politics very much. I don't want to discuss politics. I don't want to discuss, you know, current affairs. It's irrelevant. I want to talk about things that are exciting, inspiring, and also that are maybe helpful to other people, like spiritually speaking. You know, I feel that I'm here to feed my soul and to feed the souls of others. And I wonder how much I can do that if I'm like focusing on issues and topics and, you know, things that are also divisive. And I say, like, I don't agree with a lot of the beliefs I used to have as well. Like, while I may agree with some of them, I think like my thinking was not healthy, not humanizing, not, it was inhumane. I had some really like strident beliefs that were keeping me from like being a decent human being. Like I was trapped. A lot of that stuff will trap you. It'll have you acting and like being stuck in your like wounded self. I know it personally. So like just as you're listening to this, understand that it's important to be aware of what's going on, but you don't ever want to get sucked into something so much and get so worked up about it that it runs over your life. And that's what happened with me. I got fixated, obsessed. I went on it like bender and I made it my whole life and identity. That's dangerous. And that can happen with like the internet. Even for somebody who's making content, okay? Even for somebody who has a pretty strong sense of self, it can get undermined if you're too involved in this like artificial community over like your real community, the people actually around you, the people that you work with, the people that you meet, the people you talk to, your neighbors, your friends. Those people are a little bit more important, than spending time with people because you have an ideological affiliation. That kind of stuff is dangerous and it just is unhealthy. And it'll have you thinking in ways and associating with people that you probably shouldn't. Okay, because I I had people in my life that had no business being in it. No business. Oh, you can see somebody walking. Cute. Okay, so let's move on. I don't think we'll talk about feminism much. I mean, if anybody has a question for me about something about that's feminism related, or that could be contrived there, or maybe a writer or something that I've talked about, I'm happy to discuss that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think we'll be talking about like the topics. Not interested. Yeah, also I'm burned out with it. Burned out. Burned out. Done. It's done. Yeah, that focusing so much on that stuff will wear you out, burn you out, leave you tired and haggard. And that's how I felt. I felt like I had aged so much and like, I don't know. I probably feel like a lot of, to a lesser extent, obviously, but like how a lot of mothers feel with their kids. Just like you give and give and give and give some more. And it's just like being a frazzled female. That's how I felt. Okay. Marcus says, hi, Marcus. I don't say I believe in God. I say I have faith in the divine because of because of the connotations people put in those words. Well, for me, I would say both. I do believe in God, and I also have faith in the divine. But I do think, it's important not to care what connotations people put in those words. I like to let people know straight up. You know what I mean? Like, straight up. If I believe in God, and if they get their, feathers ruffled by that, okay. You're upset about the wrong things. Whether somebody else, whether somebody else believes in God or the gods or, what is the divine? I mean, what does that mean? And doesn't that relate to God? I mean, I would say I believe in both. Keith is also a Christian. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And has been everywhere across the relational spectrum too. What do you mean? I don't think I've been everywhere across the relational spectrum. There's so many ways of relating with other people I have not experienced. Taiko says it's better to be yourself than a label. That's right. That's damn right. Oh, probably shouldn't swear on here. I'm working on that. But I love that word, It's one of my favorites. It's so bad. Sadly, okay, Pico says, sadly, many people find it easier to be a label than themselves. Being yourself takes a lot of work. It takes work, and this society, really doesn't want people to be individuals. I'll just say that straight up, right? Looking in the camera at y'all. Society will try to take the individuality out of you. So it's very important to stand up for the individual. And it's very important to notice. You notice when people are being canceled, when people are being shunned, maligned, scapegoated, what have you. It's because their individuality is showing a lot of the times. And sometimes, we talk about this. Sometimes people do think people are like canceled for reasons that maybe, they did something. But a lot of the times I'm finding like that term, or, recently I had a conversation about Marilyn Manson. We'll just use this as an example. The people I was talking to about it, because I brought it up, somebody had like wrote Worm Boy on the side of a wall. And I was like, isn't that a Marilyn Manson song? I think it is. I haven't even looked it up. I think it's on the Antichrist Superstar album because I listened to him growing up, okay? And as an adult too. At this point, revisiting his work is a bit more difficult just because, like, as I said, I brought him up. I said that to the other person. And then I was like, although, yeah, I don't like him. I pulled back, like, I don't like him because of, and then they interjected because he's problematic. And I was like, because he abuses women was what I said specifically. And then they were like, that's problematic. And I was like, it is, but like problematic can mean a lot of things. Like I'm problematic. But when we talk about what, I think there's a problem with specifically how people get canceled or people get labeled problematic because often it's for their beliefs and not for their actions. And I think it's important that people's actions be what they're judged by. So, with a case like, and I don't want to get on here like making accusations about whatever celebrity, but look up Marilyn Manson and his history with his exes. He's dated a lot of very amazing women, or he's been married to amazing women and treated them very badly. So all that information's out there. So, but I mentioned to them as I was having this conversation that it's important to name, okay? So like name what it is that is objectionable about someone. Because I'm often finding with like that a lot of times when this happens, people are like labeled problematic, but people can't ever really like you question them like, well, what did they do? They don't even remember a lot of the times, like why they're supposed to hate this individual. They just know they're supposed to. And that's dangerous. So just, when we talk about, maybe an individual who it's important to name. If you can't name what they did, why are you upset? Is all I'm going to say. If we can't name what so and so did, why are we upset about it? Why are we upset with them? And why do we personally find it objectionable? I think this is important just internally, okay? Because we are talking about the individual, okay? And the importance of people being allowed to be individuals. I think we have to recognize that this culture and the media that we're saturated with is there are very few individuals, and the people that are true individuals tend to get canceled. The people who are true to themselves, okay? The people who say what they believe, what they really believe, and the people who actually think, okay? I don't know if some people like, because the culture is just so boring. You ever find that like all these celebrities, I don't know if it's because I'm older, but very few of them are interesting. Most of them are just like, who, what, why, who did it? I don't know. But the ones that always get in trouble seem to be the ones that are actually interesting. So I try to keep that in mind. Like provocation is something that happens with people who think for themselves and actually say what they believe. It's provocative, and it can be a lot of the times people get you know become labeled problematic or whatever because of that, because they've just offended people because they said what they really thought. Okay. Keith says, I can be very serious about a lot of things, but most of the time I like to act stupid. There's too much seriousness in the world. If you can crack a joke, cool. I'm very funny myself. And I just say that for myself. I'm always laughing, I'm always trying to have a funny time. I can see the humor in a lot of things, and I think like I can laugh at the darkness that a lot of people are, I don't know, scared of. I have to tell you, okay, it's just sideline. Speaking about astrology, this generation of Pluto and Capricorn kids is gonna be hilarious. Okay, okay, moving on from like when as they're coming up, you watch these people. That generation is gonna as a Pluto and Scorpio, there's like such a deep connection between like Capricorn and Scorpio because they're the very like intense dark signs that people struggle with these things. So I just know there's going to be like this really good connection between these two generations, hopefully, in the future. I wish the Zoomers and Boomers would get along though. Like, they're so alike. But anyway, I'm getting silly there. Okay. I like to laugh. I agree. It's important to be serious, but not always, I don't know, take it all seriously. It's important to remember that it's all just a cosmic ride. We're supposed to have fun here. We're supposed to enjoy this life. Keith Carlick, I guess this is in response to our conversation early about relating across this, or what is it, everywhere across the relational spectrum. Means bisexual. Okay, thank you. Marcus says it's the same thing, just easier for others to hear. Is this in reference to the what I was talking about with the my problematic tangent? Pico asks, what is your favorite Egyptian god or goddess? I think you mean whom is your favorite Egyptian god or goddess? I favorite. That's a little difficult. That's favorite. And okay, my heart says Ma'at. Ma'at is my favorite of the Egyptian pantheon. I'm also fond of Sekhmet specifically, and thinking, about the gods themselves. Anubis is obviously, oh, Anubis. Anyway, I actually have some perfume that's an Anubis perfume I got when so last year, I think, yeah, 2021 at the local art museum, they had an exhibit that was ancient Egyptian, Queen Nefertari. So I went to see that. And it was beautiful. But anyway, obviously, I went to the gift shop to get a couple of things. They had a lot of stupid stuff, obviously, like they do, but they also had some nice things. So I got this. inexpensive perfume, just kind of for my own personal use. It's Anubis. I think it's, you know what? I have it right here. Let me grab it, show it to y'all. And I got a tarot deck because, you know, I'm me. Okay. Don't look at that. He's going to get a new one for Christmas. Don't look at it. It's all ratty. Don't look at it and know that I'm a real person. Oh, this isn't Anubis. I'm so silly. I did smell the Anubis one, though. I got the Osiris one. I am a big fan of Osiris, obviously. I remember watching this documentary in the 90s about um, Osiris and Isis and the connection they had to the constellation Orion and the star Sirius. And actually, the fact that the Egyptian pyramids were in alignment with these things. I love the Stone Age, okay? Stone Age people, I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine? Like, their lives were so rough. But were they? I don't know. I don't know. And, in a different era, in a different time, what will this time be thought of? It's interesting to think about because civilizations are so different. But the Stone Age, man, the age of cosmology and like the trying to align the heavens and earth, or the way they did it is just like, oh, and the way they moved these massive stones and set them up. Anyway, done. Okay. So yeah, speaking of favorite gods, I would say, Ma'at would be my favorite, but I have other favorites. I don't play favorites with certain things. I guess I also have a little idol of Bastet in my possession that I got at an occult store years ago. Um, but I don't work with her very much. I know I what she represents and what she helps bring out. I think she has had an impact in my life. We'll say that. She definitely did bring some things to me. I would say that I needed, and I guess maybe my life has. So yeah, so it's getting that, but I don't worship or venerate, uh, and I don't think I will. I don't. I appreciate her though. I I don't say this. I don't worship idols other than like Morrissey. Maybe that's the closest thing I can think of. Like speaking of idols. Yeah. So Keith Carlock says, I am vehemently against misogyny. Well, that's good to hear. I think though it's such a web to unravel, or like a tangle to unravel, that like it's important to be delicate with it. They say vehemently against, it's like, whoa, okay. It's important to always respond to it correctly, I would say. Split Seconds also listened to Marilyn Manson growing up. I mean, he was, I think, a very interesting cultural figure and very creative visually. I like artists that are visually creative. Okay. We don't get enough of it, I think. And he was very glam in that way. So he had a lot of elements that made him appealing. And some of his music was like good, like just or is good. I'll say that is good, but like, yeah, it's hard for me to reconcile. He's one of those artists, like, and I have other artists that like have done, maybe worse things you could say that I can like interact with their work without that being at the forefront of my mind. But he's been a tough one. Um, okay, so M says, "What are your favorite '90s indie movies?" Okay, like actually indie, because how independent are we going here, or just like the indie thing? I'll go with that. um, the Gen X teen movies. I think Heather's was '89, right? So that wouldn't be considered part of that. Although I think a lot of people that age would be into that. Um, Reality Bites, obviously. Just what a beautiful cast. Little Winona Ryder, right front and center. Ethan Hawke versus Ben Stiller. Oh, just so ghetto, and then Janine Garofalo. And there's that other actor. I feel bad I don't remember his name. Um, so yeah, that one, Goodwill Hunting, My Own Private Idaho. I love Gus Van Sant. Okay, he's another. Well, I'm not going to get into what he's done, but anyway, there I can separate his work from what he may have done. Yeah, Gus Van Sant films. So My Own Private Idaho, big, big. River's Edge as well. I love Keanu Reeves early like stuff, and also Crispin Glover in River's Edge. I no one is him. Like no one is him. I'll just say that no one can do what he does, and he's just so perfect. And that his acting in that movie was wild. Um, yeah, I'm thinking of a lot of Gus Van Sant films. So yeah, now I'm back to like even Cowgirls Get the Blues. That takes place in Oregon. Well, a lot of his films do anyway, but um, very cool. Crispin Glover's in that too, actually. I just remembered. Okay. Yeah. Thinking other 90s indie films. I don't know if this is an indie film, but it's maybe one that people don't know about so much. I love that Michael Moore film, Canadian Bacon. I watch it like once a year. That film. It stars John Candy. I think Rhea Perlman is also in it. Yeah. Alan Alda's in it too. Freaking Alan Alda. Um, Love him. Okay, love him. I found out he has a podcast. I started following him actually on Twitter before I deleted my Twitter. Oh yeah, I'm not on Twitter anymore, y'all. So don't look for me there. And it has nothing to do with anything that's going on with Twitter. It was just a personal decision. Um, but yeah, I'm thinking of any other '90s indie films. What is anything else coming up for you, Terry? Come on. Search yourself. You've seen a lot. Come on. I don't know. It's hard for me to remember because you have to understand, like, I was young in the '90s, like, very young. So I don't know if things were released in theaters or whatnot, or what else. The movie Kids just came to my mind, but I don't like that film. Like '90s indie films. Yeah, I don't know. I hope that. What do you think? What do you think of my list? Is there anything I missed that you think I've seen? Okay. Split seconds. Have you seen any horror movies lately? Um, I can't remember. I don't watch a lot of horror, actually. I'm not into that very much. I'm into like there are horror films that I love. Okay, like love. I'm not if a film is good, it's good, but I find a lot of it just unwatchable. So I'm a sensitive person, I don't like to see people be hurt. I'm more into like thriller type of stuff than horror, but I do love some classic horror films. Where that genre gets blended, I don't know. I mean, some horror films aren't really. Yeah, I like eerie or spooky things, like paranormal things, but not like. Yeah, I don't like to see. Yeah, people get hurt. Um, don't like it. Um, so okay, just to go into some favorite horror films of mine. I can't remember the last one I watched. Okay, I'm sure I watched something during October. I feel like I did, but I can't remember what. I would say one of my favorite horror films is Rosemary's Baby. I That movie is beautiful and so satanic. Like from the start to finish, it is so like twisted, and the use of color in that film. It's terrifying. So Alex, I went to see The Conjuring 3 or whatever. The devil made me do it last or summer, whenever it came out. So that's the last one I saw in theaters. Um, okay, back to horror films though. So okay, we've stated Rosemary's Baby. I also love The Shining. Ooh, okay. Ooh, I mean, I don't even know what to say about it. It's just fun to watch somebody lose their damn mind. Um, Interview with the Vampire. I don't know if that's really horror. I mean, I think you would probably find it under that section, but it's more heartbreaking than anything. And of course, Dracula as well. Bram Stoker's Dracula, the one that came out in the '90s with Gary Oldman as Dracula and Winona Ryder. Ah, ugh, that yeah, I don't know, but I don't find most like vampire films to be terrible. I love vampire films. Blade as well, the Blade series. Like, oh my god. Oh, what else? I'm trying to think of other vampire films. Yeah, there's a lot of cheesy ones out there too. So I'll just get off that track. Um, okay, other favorite horror films of mine. Um, I don't know. I'm not really anything coming to mind. I just thought of the movie Legend. I don't know if that's really a horror film though, but I mean, there it's horrible. Like yeah, that I don't know. It scared me as a child. It scared me, but it also excited me. I'll let that go. Okay, so okay, I think that's enough of the horror topic. Paika says, I have evolved my own spiritual views over time, and I've been on many different spectrums. Spectrum. Spectrum. I'm just thinking about that word. It's so commonly used now. And there's these words that come into prominence at certain times. So that one's kind of interesting how it's used. Not that I'm criticizing your use of it, but I'm just thinking about it. But now I find I prefer working with spirit guides or minor elements over deities. Hey, whatever you're feeling, do you. Do you. Whatever you're feeling, you know where you're being led and what you're being taught, okay? Or what you need to learn, where you're being called to. And that's sometimes the elements, like, yeah, that's just nature. That's just basic. You have to understand. If you don't understand those, if you don't understand the simple, everyday, applied, living elements that we have in this earth around us to use, right? If you don't understand that, how are you going to understand anything, like, ever? How are you going to understand the esoteric? And, like, people want to start up here spiritually when they bring it down here, back to earth, back to now. Anyway, hey baby, hello. You contain all the elements, don't you? You got fire and water and earth, and you got some air. Yes, you do. Okay. Keith says, I like eerie stories, but no slasher fix. I think I saw that and commented in response. Pico says, I firmly believe that each tarot deck has its own personality. Well, yeah. Yeah, of course it does. But what do you mean by personality? They're beautiful little things, the beautiful art. It's beautiful. I just appreciate thinking about it, what it brings me to when I pull out the cards. Okay. Alex says, yeah, The Conjuring. So I respond to that, like, I haven't seen The Conjuring, but I went to see this, like, bad, see it 3 or 2, I don't know. It was bad. It was so bad, it was good, and then it was bad. But I did like the main actress's outfits. She was very smart looking. She had that, like, I don't know, church lady vibe from, I don't know, the 90s. Dana Carvey, I think, did the church lady. Very, I miss that. I miss that kind of satire. I just don't see it anymore. Like, I do see it, but you don't get enough of it. There's something so beautiful about that kind of I guess you get it in, like, drag culture, maybe. I see that quite a bit, like, where you are so, like, you just, I mean, that's what it was. Church Lady was great. Okay. I'm going on about Church Lady. Ghost story starring Fred Astaire. That is eerie as hell. I will check that out, I think. Ghost story starring Fred Astaire. M loves my lists. Oh yeah, I do love Lily Taylor. I shot Andy Warhol, Household Saints Dogfight. She had some good ones. Harvey Weinstein hated her. LOL. Great character actress. Yeah, I like Lily Taylor. Yes, I do. I don't think I've seen Household Saints or Dogfight though, so I will look into that. You know what? Bound. I just thought about Bound. uh, Jennifer Tilly. Oh my God, Jennifer Tilly. I love her. Oh my God. I, The Bride of Chucky, that film, Oh my God. There's another favorite horror film for this. I love talking about movies. Um, God, I haven't been watching many movies. I rewatched Upstairs, Downstairs again, y'all. Yes, I did cry when, the last season. There's some tough things that go on. I won't put spoilers here on this channel for anybody who hasn't watched it. But if you haven't, I highly recommend watching that series. The one from the 70s, and yes, the one from the Audis, or what was it, made in 2010. Um, Both are brilliant, but obviously you have to go to the source, go to the one from the 70s first. Rewatched that recently. I love that kind of stage acting that they had. There's real acting, and it's good to watch. And also, I mean, then I just oh my God, those characters were so brilliant. And this time, I really kind of got more into the characters of Elizabeth and James because I realized, I think maybe for the first time, and this is what I like about rewatching series, is that you get to know the characters on a deeper level. Like you really think more about what's happening. And I think that's why I like to rewatch something that I actually enjoy. Okay. Because I understand it deeper. So that's when I rewatch pretty frequently. Not like I have to watch it at least once a year. Okay. And I'm not always watching it. Sometimes I'm listening to it, obviously, but it's just like, okay. But yeah, I was thinking about both of their characters and how much they struggled with society changing and also their passions. Like both of them were so, I don't know, that both kids were so similar in the fact that they were both so dissatisfied with the life that was like set up for them. Even though they were kind of like at the top of society, you see this like complete inability to cope with it because both of them rejected it in different ways. James, I think, I think it's because he was male too. He did take on, I think, more of it, but also because he stayed in England. I don't know. It's damn, and man, I don't know. It was a funny show. It really was. It had a lot to it. So I got stuck on that. Thank you for the people who are listening to me go on about this, by the way. Okay. Um, so yeah, I was watching that, and then I've been watching. Okay, another British show. I've been watching Are You Being Served? Now, this was played on like public TV when I was probably preteen. I remember watching it late at night on a like Saturday, I think it was on or something like that. That show is wild. That's another one that like started in the 70s and it ran through the 80s. And the characters are really interesting. And it's interesting because it is so old that you can kind of compare it to modern culture and how much it kind of lines up in some ways. So obviously it's a bit dated too, but I like to see it as a reference point when I watch some of these older films for like why we're at where we're at. But yeah, that's a lot of stage acting too, and the show is actually really theatrical in a lot of ways. All the different stunts that they do, and there's like dancing. It has this kind of like variety aspect that's interesting. Um, and there's like pussy jokes, uh, meaning cat. So I really enjoy that. Okay, anyway, Pico says, oh, it's not showing. Here, let me show your comment. Although Please refrain from swearing. It's bad enough when I do it, y'all. My deck is blunt, sarcastic, and will not take my blank, but underneath it has a good heart and wants what's best for me. Like, oh, no, not the reversals conversation. No. Alex said two was pretty bad, but I didn't know there was a three. I mean, maybe I watched the second one, Alex. I don't know. I don't know which one I watched. Okay. Keith says the 90s was the best decade for SNL. Yes. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Yes. we are, yeah. Things isn't what they was, is it? Things just isn't what they was. Okay. Pika says, my deck kept falling and spreading, and it would wind up in reversals anyway. The dark side? What do you mean by the dark side? I don't know. I have like this interesting conversation in tarot about like reversals. Are they okay? Are they not? Here's what I think. I just see it as maybe looking at a card in a little bit of a different light. Okay? I don't really put too much stock in it, and I often don't read with reversals. Although I found as I've gotten sloppier with my cards over the years, it just inevitably happens, you know. You get more of them, you kind of like, shuffle them differently. Well, just put it that way. Put them back differently. Or I think often when I take a deck out, I leave it out for a while. Like when I have a deck, I don't just like play with it and put it away. Okay. And that's part of why I like having my special little space here where I create, you know. I think it could be better organized, but that's another conversation. But yeah, when I have my cards out, they're out for a while. I have on my in another like space in my home, which is sacred. Um, I have a deck there that's always out that I use. So when I want to just like interact with a tarot, I'll pull a card from there. You know, put it up, leave it up, think about it. I don't know I'm going on into that, but like in talking about reversals, I just, how I feel is it's that it can mean something, but if you're still learning, like maybe it's that, yeah, this is a card that you need to pay attention to or think about in another way, is what I would advise for you from my experience, because it's important not to like, I don't know, get over stuck with that, like to think, because I find a lot of times like people get like it's in reverse, so its meaning is reversed, and that doesn't mean what it means. Like you have to look at the whole picture, and that's like irritating to me about like a lot of how I see readings being done and how I don't want to be. It's like it's important to slow down when you're doing a reading. A lot of people want that answer right away. And that's the struggle in this profession, in my experience, is trying to get people to understand that, like, the answer is a question, okay? That you think there's going to be an answer from this, but really the tarot teaches you or asks you questions often when you are looking at a reading. And so, as a reader for me, for myself, or maybe that's just how I read, maybe that's not how other people read, but for me, that's what I'm looking at. Like, what is being asked of the querent? You know, it's meant to be any kind of like divination, it's a mirror. You're looking into a dark mirror. So you're seeing your reality from another perspective. So you're peering into this reality, asking, what do you see? And it's looking at you, asking, what do you see? Divination is two ways, okay? So remember that. So if something comes in like different, be aware of it, but like also be careful with it. You don't know. You don't know exactly what it means yet. Anyway, I don't know. I shouldn't be giving you advice. You'll figure it out. Alex, The Thing is a great horror flick. What is The Thing about, Alex? I'm not familiar with that. And I don't have, I mean, I guess I could type it on my computer, but I don't like to do that when I'm live. Okay, so yeah, explain The Thing to me. Keith says, I see horror stories in two parts. Guys slash and eat brains, but female ghosts are a hell of a lot more eerie and deeper intellectually, which makes them eerier. I think, yeah, I mean, there's a masculine and a feminine to everything, right? So, yeah, in the masculine, horror kind of archetype, that's more centered around violence and domination and um, destruction. Let's say that too, like destruction is a big part. I mean, it's in both parts, though. The destruction is also in a lot of the more feminine horror films. But yeah, I think for me, that's a big part of it. I can't, there's something for me that is, I can't take too much of that energy. It's stressful. It's stressful for me. I can't take too much of the other one though either. I mean, I don't watch a lot of horror, you know. Okay. There's some films that are like, I was just thinking of films that are bad, and thinking of like horror. Um, have you ever watched the indie film Safety Not Guaranteed, starring Aubrey Plaza? No, I haven't. I don't think I've seen anything with her in it, but I will tell you, somebody compared me to her once. And I was like, I don't know what that means. They sent me a video of her. So I watched like clips of her in this video, and I was like, okay, I am like this to this person. What does this mean? What do they mean? Like I watched it, I'm like, I don't know what they meant. I suppose I could come across like that. Maybe when I'm being very serious, I think I am. I can kind of be like, have some of that intensity, but it is what it is. I don't know. I didn't see it, I guess. I didn't get it. So if y'all could explain to me why you believe I am comparable to her, I would appreciate that because I don't. Tell me why. So I understand because I didn't get it from the clips I saw. Maybe there's something in her though. If I watch a film with her, maybe I'll get it more. Maybe that's it. Maybe I just need to actually sit and watch some of her work. But I haven't seen anything that she's been in. Oh, that I am aware of her. I am aware of her because of that. Oh, Pico, you appreciate my tarot advice. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Uh, my kitty, what do you wish? Keith shares, okay, Nostradamus used to look into a brass tripod until a flame emerged and beckoned him into his visions. That's so awesome. Scrying is scary, okay? Like, going to go there with scrying. I get, oh, it can be very frightening. I'll just say that I've had spooky experiences from scrying at times. However, it is an interesting practice. I have done a little bit of it. I have used crystals, looking into crystals or gazing into them. Also balls, glass balls, water as well. I've done scrying with water, bowls of water. Interestingly enough, I've only attempted it under moonlight, like I think twice. So that's something I may want to do again. And I think I might plan something actually. Now I'm thinking about that. That might be a beautiful experience if the moon is out doing her thing. But yeah, like having that kind of dark reflective surface, black mirrors. I remember I'd like attempted to make black mirrors a number of times, but I saw this like tutorial, I think on old YouTube, where you get like a frame, and you spray paint the cardboard in it or wood, whatever it's made out of, with black spray paint, and then here's your mirror. It doesn't. It's not the same. It don't work as good. It's not as good. Okay, I couldn't make it work. It didn't work. That's all I'm gonna say. I tried it multiple times too, making that damn mirror. Oh, have a good night. But I hope. Oh, yes. Have a good night, Heiko. Oh, my cat is crying for me. Okay, that means I should wrap up soon. And yeah, so we'll give it another maybe 10 minutes or so. What do y'all think? I think that's good. I think that's a good time to stop. Okay, so Keith says, in terms of how I am like Aubrey Plaza, I am flip but humorous. Oh, yeah. You know what? Okay. Okay. Yeah. You know what? I recently was analyzing kind of how I was behaving in a situation. And I was like, you know what? I don't always need to be flip or humorous. Sometimes I could just not. And maybe that would be the correct way of behaving. Come on. Stop that. Come here. Come here. Hi. Why, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Cat break. But yeah, he is beckoning me. I should get off of here soon. Like I said, I'm planning to stand. Yeah. A little bit longer. Okay, so Keith says, I recently bought a glass paperweight sphere with air pockets inside. It makes me think of a model of a multiverse. I'm trying to imagine what you're describing. Okay, I think I know what kind of thing. Okay, I know the kind of thing you're talking about. I love paperweights. A lot of anything can be a paperweight. But yeah, I do like those. Yeah, I do like those things. I don't think I have anything like that actually. In all of my treasures, I don't have one of those things, I don't think. Hey, come on, stop. He's at it again. All right. So that, you know what? I think I'm gonna wrap it up shortly. So does anybody have any thing they want me to discuss before we say goodnight? Come on. I'm getting off soon. I promise. I promise. Do y'all like him? Do y'all like the cat? Does anybody have an animal? All right. Nobody's saying anything, Nero, so I think we're going to be good. Okay, well, take another sip. I guess we're done for tonight. But anything I want to wrap up? Wow, we talked about a lot of things, and this is all I got done. Y'all sucked me in. I was gonna be like laid back and drawing and chatting quietly, but I seem to have more pep. So, yeah. All right. Well, good night, everyone. Thanks for showing up and chatting and your recommendations for films and music. I love those. I appreciate those. I hope you appreciated mine. Um, and yeah, I will talk with you all very soon.